Hey everyone, this is Travis with GroundBreakers to Harvesters, and we're excited that you could be with us today. It's been a while. I got Anthony with me, and we haven't had a chance to do a podcast together for, over a month. I mean, we took Christmas off, and then January, you've been traveling here, there, and everywhere and doing what you do, and now it's a chance for us to get together again and connect. So if you haven't had a chance yet, kind of what we do on these conversations is Anthony produces on a pretty regular basis a blog. You can find it at anthonycelia.com, and then we kind of unpack that blog verbally. I ask questions, he gives insights, we dive deeper into it, we wrestle with questions, and it's always a good way to do it. So if you haven't yet, head over there, read the blog if you want to. If not, that's okay. We'll just kind of talk about it, and you can listen in. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So, Anthony, my question for you today is this. What were your favorite movies growing up? What did you really enjoy? Like, what was your genre? What was your kind of like the dirty, not dirty movie, but the movie that you're like, I shouldn't be watching this movie, but it's such a good movie, like Dirty Dancing or something like that.
Not Dirty Dancing.
Go for it. What was it?
Oh, man. I just like the really dumb, stupid movies. I remember my dad showed me Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
How old were you?
I don't know. It was before I was a Christian, people. Leave me alone. It probably wasn't. And I like those types of movies, like from my generation. Like, even, what was it? The apple pie movie.
American Pie.
American Pie.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I remember watching that with my dad and being like, this is so inappropriate. And okay, he's laughing, so I guess I'm allowed to laugh. So, yeah, I just like those dumb, stupid, like high school movies. Tanya and I will still turn them on and be like, oh, remember, high school was nothing like that, but we wish it was.
Nothing. See, in my generation, we had those too, but they were all John Hughes movies. It was like Pretty in Pink, and Breakfast Club is still one of my
those are great.
favorite movie in the entire world.
Yeah.
Pretty in Pink doesn't hold up as well as I hoped it would. I watched it the other day, and it was kind of funny, but it was not nearly as classic as Ferris Bueller's Day Off and things like that.
Yeah, most aren't. We just watched Fight Club a little while ago. The second time I'd seen it, I'm like, nope, one time's enough. Yeah,
I've actually never seen Fight Club.
Oh, really? Okay,
never seen it. So
okay, I thought you would have.
No, it's one of those. There's a handful of movies out there that everyone assumes that I've seen, and that's one of them I haven't seen. And it's not because I don't want to. It's like Reservoir Dogs. Everyone's I'm a huge Pulp Fiction fan, so they're like, you've seen Reservoir Dogs? I'm like, I haven't.
No.
And then they're mad at me, almost want to unfriend me, along with a host of other reasons to unfriend me.
I don't think that's the only one.
No, there's a host of other reasons to unfriend me, for sure. Okay, so is there a movie that you saw that was like, that shifted you? Like for me, it was the movie Good Morning Vietnam. And I remember I went on a date, not a great date movie in case you're wondering. And I was in a theater program at the time. It was CAPA, School of Creative and Performing Arts.
Okay.
In Rockford, Illinois. It was a magnet program. It was great. Anyways, I won't get into the details of that. And this girl and we went to see Good Morning Vietnam. Okay. And I remember just the great movie. Robin Williams, fell in love with him as an actor in that movie for sure, even more so than Mork and Mindy. But the story and the questions that it kind of brings up, I found fascinating. And it actually opened the door for my dad and I to have conversations about Vietnam, where he served.
Okay, wow.
He was in the first Cav, but he served early on in that conflict. In fact, he was there when the conflict first started.
Wow.
And which is fascinating. Another story for another day. So what about you? What movie for you was like that movie that
you mentioned
social awakening or whatever?
You mentioned something, the big difference between you and I. You were in theater and I was not.
I was.
So I really, when I watch a movie, I'm like, that was a good movie. I don't really there's none that where I'm like, oh, this just changed my life,
Yeah.
I'll watch, I enjoy artsy movies, but I'm kind of like, that was good. Okay, I'm not going to sit there, listen to critics. I'm like, I don't think the writer was even thinking about that. It's like me in music.
Yes.
I don't think you're overthinking it. So I don't have a movie like that. I'm like, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. There you go. Mr. Hand.
Though a great movie.
That let me know what I did not want to do with my life. Let's put it that way.
Spagnol.
Yeah. So my dad showed that to me, hey, don't do this and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
So
how'd that work out for your brother?
He's doing great.
Very good. Very good. If you're listening, I have the highest respect for you. And anyways.
He lives like 20 minutes from Canada in Vermont, where like in a village of 2,000 people. And I was texting him like because of the storm that went through.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, it's like 18, like negative 18 every day here.
Right.
I'm like, that's with a wind chill, right? He's like, no, that's just like the cold hard, and he loves it. So
California boy moving up to.
yeah. I asked, are there humans there? He's like, a couple.
Yeah.
So
he's a hermit.
Yeah, like 12 acres, him and his wife in the tiny house.
Yeah.
Living the dream. So
there's days that I would love to do that.
Yeah,
definitely. So your blog the other day, you really unpacked and dove into the movie Forrest Gump. And there are some fantastic lines. I mean, that was, again, one of those movies that when it hit, there were so many great quotable moments. There were so many historical things. It resonated with the young like you, the not so young like me, and then even the old crowd that lived those moments. They're like, oh, and how they, integrated him into these great scenes. And it was a great movie. But what inspired you to use that?
I mean, honestly, again, I'm not like, oh, this movie changed my life. I remember seeing it as a kid, and I was too young to really understand any of it besides like, this is a good movie. Like, I don't know why everyone's crying about this or getting angry at this point or whatever. But it was really the kind of the stuff I was reading from Jesus. And I was like, honestly, was like, oh, I need something to tie this in. And then this Forrest Gump scene came into my head, which was so weird because I haven't seen Forrest Gump since probably I was a kid.
Right.
I mean, you see quotes and snippets all over the place. So, but I remember that movie, being everyone at school talking about it, and none of us knew what it was about. But it's like on Tony and I's list. Hey, we need to go watch that.
Yeah,
we don't have. I remember it being really long.
Yes.
So
it was very long.
We
movie.
need like 4 nights to watch it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that just came to my mind of particularly that the storm scene, and maybe that's where we dive in. Storm, dive, water, dive into it. So
I think you're overthinking this.
Yeah.
No, but it's one of those pivotal scenes where you meet Lieutenant Dan in Vietnam, right? And Lieutenant Dan's like passionate about making sure there's socks, but Lieutenant Dan goes into this fully expecting,
about that.
right? He's fully expecting that he's going to die like his father before him, his grandfather before him, and this was just their family legacy. This was their family story. This was their family cycle. The expectation is, I'm going to mess it up just like they did, and I'm going to die in battle. So that's the lot. And he was very resolved to that. And then you have this good do-weller named Forrest, right, who is having this great conversations with Bubba about shrimp, and then all hell breaks loose, and it's Dan's moment to die.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Dan's moment to die in battle with honor, and Forrest Gump saves him.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden he doesn't know what to dream anymore. He doesn't know, he has no vision. He had no vision beyond dying in battle.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the hidden things that I saw in the post was it's a dangerous thing when we don't have a vision beyond, let's say, retirement.
Yeah.
Or a vision beyond kids in the family or kids in the home, or a vision beyond wherever we currently are at. And we can find ourselves in those Lieutenant Dan moments where we find it more palatable to be on the top of the mast in the middle of a hurricane, wiping out everything around us and just being mad at God. And it's not like God did anything to spite him. It was just like, dude, you forgot to dream.
Yeah.
Like you forgot to dream.
Yeah.
You forgot to see the value that you still have. That's not on God. That's on you. But you kind of you took a attack on that about storms and about life and about everything else. So kind of unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, no, what you're saying is that's why I like talking about this stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. Like there's a whole nother onion there to peel. That's great, but we won't do that today. But no, for me, it was this passage when Jesus and his disciples there on the lake, and his disciples, a lot of them were fishermen. That's what they did, right? So I'm just going to read it real quick. It's here, but it's from Matthew 8:23 and 27. And when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him, and behold, there arose a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves, but he was What was he doing? He was sleeping. And they went and woke him, saying, "Save us, Lord, we are perishing." And he said to them, "Why are you afraid, O you of little faith?" Then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm, and the men marveled, saying, "What sort of man is this, that even winds and sea obey him?" And the fact that these guys were fishermen, like, this was a legit storm, this wasn't like just some land dwellers, like, oh, there's some, like, no, these guys were terrified. And the thing that first stuck out to me was that the disciples followed him into this boat. It's not like he convinced them, like, come here, and this storm. They were like, no, I trust this guy. I'm going to follow him, which got me thinking about this idea of the American church where we think that God's going to be safe all the time.
Yes.
And that it's not going to be troubling. And I was just reading this morning a passage that St. Augustine wrote, saying, like, pastors, how dare you, like, promise prosperity and safety to your people? Like, tell them they are going to die for the faith. Like, you're setting them up for failure if you tell them this is going to be an easy life. And mind you, this was like a different time of the church, and was for what we're living in the West now, but just that kind of first idea of, like, sometimes God leads us into the storms. And, like, as Westerners, as particularly Americans living in Frisco, Texas, it's like, what do you mean? Like, the prosperity gospel is everywhere, and probably in the church I preach at,
Well, and it's subtle things like how quickly we are to say, God's blessing us. Yeah. Like, it's a joke in our car, but if we get, like, rock star parking in a parking lot, it's like, oh, Jesus is blessing us today.
Well, that's one of Tanya's spiritual gifts, because anytime we get in a mall, I'm like, honey, say a prayer. And she's like, dear Jesus, give us a spot. And every single time. Like,
it's the mercy of the Lord, because you guys have, like, a 1-year-old. Yeah. So he's like, you don't need that fight.
And it's Satan's playground is the parking lot. So
Yes, it is. But we just have these subtle ways of assuming that when things are going well, somehow we're more in line with God's will, or we're being blessed by him. And when things are bad, somehow our faith isn't strong enough, or somehow we are stepping out of bounds with God and we're no longer in his will. And I think your point, which is beautiful, is there are times that God invites us into the storm.
Yeah.
And it's not because we've disobeyed him. It's not because we're unfaithful to him, or we don't have enough faith. I mean, that's the lie of the 21st century, that somehow God's love for us is determined by how much faith we have. Like, tell me how to measure that.
Yeah.
There's times that he's like, you're going to be in the storm because I'm about to teach you something.
Yeah. And there's that tension too, I say in there, like, I'm not trying to answer the question of, like, why does God allow storms to happen? Why, like, that's the question, like, did God cause the storm? Did God not, and metaphorical storms, that's what we're talking about. Like, oh, so if you're suffering because of cancer or whatever, or financial hardship, did God bring that? I'm not answering that question. I'm not trying, like, go ahead and leave in the comments, like, I'm not going there. But the fact is, I think because we get hung up on that question, like, did God cause this? Did I bring this on me? Like, I think you can make scriptural points of both sides,
Right.
But I think we use that as a facade to actually, like, be honest with God in the storm. Because Captain Dan's up there, Lieutenant Dan's, like, just screaming, and, like, that's what I think God wants us to do in the storm. That's what you see the disciples doing. They're like, we're dying. Where are you?
Right.
Where I'll be in the storm, be like, Lord, what am I supposed to learn from this? Or, like, stop with the pious junk and just be honest.
Right. But I think you're so right. Like, and you even say in the blog post, which I think is the big encouragement from this one for me, was like, God desires our honesty. And in the movie, this was the first time that I think Lieutenant Dan was just brutally honest with himself, with his lot in life, the fact that he lost his legs and now things aren't easy, things aren't better. He was supposed to die as a hero, and now he's struggling to just make ends meet. And he has this, like, brutally honest moment with God, represented by this raging storm around him, right? And again, the metaphor of the movie is God shows up, listens, and then there's healing. Like, there's an internal healing and peace that happens for Lieutenant Dan. He's like, oh, okay, I'm still in. And I think that's the encouragement for us is, first and foremost, storms are coming.
Yeah.
Like, culturally, financially, spiritually, religious storms are coming. We've had a season or two as a church within the harbor, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
We've created storms ourselves because of our sinful natures, but there's a storm that I think is coming our way. So we need to be ready. And I think one of the things we can be ready with is to be honest, like the disciples, saying, God, this is way out of my control. I have no idea what to do with this. Jesus, take the wheel. Yeah, I got that in there.
Sing that, baby.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Don't stop it. Stop it. And cut.
I was hoping you'd come in with some harmonies, but anyways.
No.
But so okay. So let me ask you a really practical question. Someone's listening to this and they're like, "Yeah, you guys don't know how hard I have it." No. Right? I'm thinking of an individual who lost his wife of 10 years, and it's just a brutal loneliness that he's in. And there's real questions about God and why would God, who is sovereign, who can heal people, not heal her, right? And so in the midst of that storm, what practical encouragement would you give to them as they're in the midst of the storm?
Man, it's so hard to give, advice to people you're not sitting with across the table from them as they're crying because their spouse of 10 years passed. But a thing I've always taken from this story with Jesus and his disciples is like, even in the storm, Jesus was in the boat with them. And I think what has gotten me through those storms, and mind you, I've had a pretty calm life, but relative to my experiences in those moments of the storm, I'm not looking to God to heal. I'm not looking to God to calm it. I'm looking at him crucified, that Jesus suffered not only in our place, but with us,
Yeah.
And I think that from our little Lutheran heritage, that's something I cling on to so dearly, is that in those moments of the storms of where you are crying out, Lord, I am perishing, point your eyes, not even yourself, you need other people around you to lift your eyes to the crucified Christ who is on the cross suffering with you, saying, I know. And from my experience, that brings comfort. It doesn't answer questions. It doesn't make things better, but there's a comfort there that surpasses all understanding. And I mean, I know it sounds super pastory and Christian-y, but it's been the truth in my life. The disciples lost sight that Jesus was in the boat with them. And in those storms, he's with us in those. He's not surprised by them. He's not going like, whoa, there's a storm. He's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, to hold the faith that he can say peace and the healing does come.
Yeah.
But even if it doesn't, he's still the God who is crucified in my place, in our place, and took on the weight of the brokenness of this world upon himself. He absorbed it. He took it to himself. It's not like the Father was like, hey, go get beat up for the people's sin. Jesus was like, no, I'm going to go and absorb all the storms, the brokenness of this world. I'm going to take it unto myself. And then those of us who follow Jesus, how can we be that to the people around us? How can we absorb the brokenness of this world? How can we place ourselves there saying, I'm going to sit with you in this and just absorb this with you? So that's what I would say.
I think I think a good place to end is the reminder that you had was absolutely focus on Christ crucified and what he did for us. And in the midst of the storm, it took one guy to point to the rest of the guys that were busy working, busy trying to save the boat, busy trying to live through the storm. Hey, Jesus is right there. And I think there's a community aspect that we have to be honest with. Like you're never supposed to go through a storm alone.
Yep.
Not only is Jesus with you, but Jesus is with you in tangible ways through his people, his body, through other believers. And in a culture that extended family, I look at you and I, our closest extended family is 8 hours away for us. For you, it's even more. That we, the community, the church, and this is not the job of the pastor, this is the job of the church, that we would commit to bearing with each other as they go through the storm for as long as it takes.
Yep.
And some will journey through storms, difficult storms, fairly quickly, and some will take generations, literal generations.
Yeah.
And that's not ours to judge. That is ours to say, Lord, give me the strength today to journey with them as they go through the storm today.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things, going back to the individual who lost his wife, that's been the biggest blessing to me, is we've met every other week for a year plus now. And to see the ebbs and the flows and the good days and the bad days and the successes and the failures and the setbacks and everything else. And at the end of the day, it's forged a friendship that's like, yeah, dude, you don't doubt. I got your back because Christ has your back.
Yep.
And so I think those are some words of encouragement for us as we go forward is storms are going to come. Be honest, like Lieutenant Dan. Scream your head off if you want to. God's a big God. He can hear you. And then let the community that God has called to be around you be with you. Don't let isolation and loneliness set in. That's going to kill you. Amen?
Amen.
Any final thoughts, Mr. Anthony?
No.
All right. All right. Well, as you can read the entire blog post. I mean, literally, it's like a 5-minute read. It's really simple. It's a great way to start your day on a Friday morning. That's normally when he drops them.
I do not a video. I do an audio version of it too.
Yeah,
so you
do.
Just play it.
Yes.
And this one has some fun. I was going to try to do like the Forrest accent, and I listened to it. I'm like, oh no, it's way thicker, and every accent I do becomes Russian. So
really?
I was like, so go listen to it. You'll get some good little clips in there, and I do not have the following for any organization to shut me down for copyright infringement. So
that sounds good. So anyways, check it out. You can listen to it on your workout or on your ride into work, or you can read it whenever you're doing what you're doing in the morning. So anyways, check it out, anthonycelia.com. You can always check us out at groundbreakerslife.com, and like us and follow us on Facebook. Follow us. And we'll make sure that we keep you informed. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful day.
God bless.
I am child, you are mine now. I have something good for you today.